Another example from Luke. In Luke 18, verse 9, he spoke this parable to some who trusted in themselves that they were righteous and they despised others. 2 men went up to the temple to pray. That's a good thing, right? One a Pharisee, the other a tax collector, better known as a publican. They were the antithesis of a Pharisee. In their culture, if you wanted to compliment somebody for their religion, you'd say, "Oh, you're a good Pharisee." I know, you and I think it's an insult, but they thought that was a compliment. If you wanted to insult somebody, you would call them a tax collector. Now, that was much worse back then than it is today. Today, it's still not, no one, is happy to hear tax collectors at their door. But back then, they were considered like the mafia. They were pretty unrighteous in their company. 2 men went to the temple to pray, one a Pharisee, the other a tax collector. The Pharisee stood, probably near the front, prayed thus with himself, "God, I thank you that I am not like other men." So what's his prayer about? His prayer about God, his prayer about his neighbor, his prayer about him. I thank you that I am not like other men. Extortioners, unjust, adulterers, or even as this tax collector. All of it was horizontal. I fast twice a week. He probably did. That's a good thing. Wasn't required, but fasting's not all bad. I give tithes of all that I possess. That's good. And the tax collector, standing off, would not so much as raise his eyes to heaven, but he beat on his breast in self-humiliation. He says, "God, be merciful to me, a sinner." That's one of the shortest prayers in the Bible. And you know what Jesus said? "I tell you, this man, the publican, went down to his house justified rather than the other, the Pharisee. For everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, and he that humbles himself will be exalted." The hardest thing for God to reach is pride. Pride and self-sufficiency. Someone said, "You're never more like the devil than when you're proud." I think that was John Knox that said that. And you're never more like Jesus than when you're humble. So the Pharisees, it was all like they were proud of their humility. And, that sort of is an endless cycle. How many of you want to be humble like Jesus? I do. If you ever get to that point where you think I finally got the humility of Jesus, then you are at risk of becoming proud that you're now as humble as Jesus. So, you just got to guard. Something else on that subject? Can you tell me where in the Bible we're to pray that God will humble us? Doesn't say that. But over and over in the Bible it says, "Humble yourself," which is proof that you have a free will. God cannot force you to be humble. God can put you through some humiliating circumstances, but for you to really look at all that the Lord did to Pharaoh, did it humble him or did he harden his heart? See, you're all free to react to circumstances, but only you can choose to be humble. And unless you consciously choose it, we will be selfish and proud. And so it's something that we must embrace, and it doesn't come naturally. So the Pharisee, it was all about